Trade season is not just upon us, it is here. So what do the Magic have to offer the trade market, and what are the Magic looking for today on Locked On Magic?
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is December 17th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, we introduce you to the trade market as the trade season has arrived. We'll talk a little bit about what the Magic might be looking for on the trade market, what they have to offer, and who might be out there. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day, no matter when you listen to us, whether it's first thing in the morning, whether it's right we upload. We truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. And you can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day with the Locked On Magic Daily Newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com to start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic Newsletter. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. The playoff is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff, presented by Allstate, begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st. That's Friday and Saturday on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. So December 15th, Sunday, is the unofficial opening of trade season. We've already had a major trade with the Golden State Warriors acquiring Dennis Schroeder. But the reason why December 15th is such an important date is that in the collective bargaining agreement, essentially it says if you sign a new contract, if you join a new team, you cannot be traded for 3 months or December 15th, whichever is later. And so, considering most contracts are signed in July, most players become fully available to be used in trades on December 15th. It is the shorthand way to say trade season is open. From now until February 6th of the trade deadline, anything can happen. And obviously, there'll be rumors and there'll be reports, and frankly, not much is going to happen. Obviously, something big already has happened. There's been another minor trade as well. Nothing major is probably going to happen until the deadline. So a lot of, we'll talk about trades and we'll talk about rumors as they pop up, the legitimate ones at least. February 6th is a long way away. And I think that is where I want to start with this conversation. As we start looking at the trade market and start thinking about what the Magic need to trade, you have to start with the basic thing. What do the Magic want out of a trade? And we'll get to that in the next segment. And what do the Magic have to offer in a trade? Before we could go out and figure out who fits this bill, we have to think about who the Magic are. We have to think about where the Magic are in relation to their standings, in relation to their goals for the season. I've said this a million times. I know I've related this, and I still feel this way. The Magic are in a very weird spot. When you get to the trade deadline, especially, you're usually looking for buyers and sellers. You're looking for what teams are looking to make a short-term gain and which teams want to kind of sell off for their future, which teams are willing to mortgage their future, which teams are looking to invest in their future. And the Magic are still in this very, very weird place where they are exceptionally young still very, very young, but they're also trying to win now. They're trying to build for the next 2-3 seasons, but also still compete and make the playoffs, win home court advantage, advance in the playoffs. Orlando, I think, again, the place to start is Orlando is not desperate to make a trade. Y'all will hate me for saying this. This season is not about this season. If this season were about this season, we'd be freaking out a lot more about the point guard problem. And I've seen the comments. There are plenty of people freaking out about it. I can tell you the Magic aren't. If this season were about this season, there'd probably be a little bit more freaking out about stabilizing this team while Paolo and Franz are out. I can tell you there's no trades imminent. The Magic are not doing something tomorrow, despite a loss to the Bucks and a loss to the Knicks. There's no panic. The Magic are exactly where they want to be. And so you have to start and assess things there. The Magic's goal this season was to win home court advantage and probably get out of the first round. And we can debate whether the Magic are good enough as is to get out of the first round. But we can't debate that the Magic are probably going to end up with at least, they're going to end up in fifth. Like, call me out. Give me the cold, freezing cold take. I don't care. I was a little skeptical about this Magic team. I had them 6th in the East to end this at the beginning of the season. I'll sit here today, 27 games in. They're not finishing lower than 5th. Miami's not catching them. Atlanta's not catching them. Milwaukee is probably not catching them. The Magic are going to be 4th or 5th, if not 3rd. Second's probably a stretch at this point, but the Magic are exactly where they want to be to complete their regular season goals. The East has been very forgiving to them, but the Magic have taken care of their business. They have survived. They have kept themselves afloat, and obviously there's still more work to do, but the Magic are exactly where they want to be. They are not desperate to accomplish something. They are where they want to be. And so when we look at the trade market, you have to ask, what does a trade accomplish? Especially a trade deadline deal. How does adding a new player, or what does adding a new player, how much does that raise your ceiling in the short term, as well as the long term with what you have to give up? And so we'll get into what the Magic might be looking for, because I'm not sitting here saying the Magic are a perfect team. They're not a championship level team. They're going to need to do something at some point. I don't think it will be at this year's deadline, but we also have 2 more months, or a month and a half now, 6 weeks, until we really begin to understand what the Magic are looking for and who this Magic team is. We've still got time, in other words. And certainly, I don't think the Magic are out here thinking about things until they see what they look like with a little bit more health. Now, they're probably not going to see Franz Wagner before the trade deadline, so they will have to make some decisions, but I think they want to see this team healthy before they make any final decisions. And so the place to start, and with the 2.5 minutes I have before I have to take my break, the place to start is, what do the Magic actually have to offer on the trade market? For whatever you want, whether it's like a Zach LaVine level player or Darren Fox has been a favored among the trade speculators and even the offshore betting sites. If you're looking for a star level player, well, what are the Magic willing to give up? And yes, Magic salaries matters and all that stuff, but what are the Magic willing to give up? At this point, we know Jeff Weltman has been very meticulous about how he manages this roster's continuity. It's been almost annoying how much he has bet on continuity, but guess what? The formula has worked. The team is still playing really well, and frankly, if they didn't have the continuity that they built over the last 3 years, I don't know if they're as successful without Paolo and Franz as they have been so far this season. So I think that was a good gamble. In fact, probably if they have Markelle Fultz, they're feeling a little bit better about things. And he's still available. They just don't have the roster spot for him. To say the least, then, I think it's very far-fetched if the Magic are looking to do anything that involves anyone super important. They're not looking to move Jalen Suggs. They're not looking to move Anthony Black. They're not moving Paolo and Franz, obviously. They're not looking to move anyone of major importance. In reality, who the Magic have to offer on the trade market this year is probably Cole Anthony, medium-sized contract, but team-friendly. He could get out of that quickly. Gary Harris, player who's currently injured, but a good veteran, good shooter. I'm always loath to give up good shooters on this Magic team because the Magic needs shooting very desperately. But a reasonable contract, quasi-expiring, certainly someone that could maybe fetch something. Goga Batadze, if you really want to, he becomes trade eligible on January 15th. So before the deadline, he becomes a valuable piece. Maybe Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is on the market if you're ready to give up on that and go get a starting level point guard. And then probably most importantly, the Magic are probably willing to give up their 2 first-round picks, or at least they're willing to entertain trading their 2 first-round picks. The Magic have 2 picks in the upcoming draft, assuming the Nuggets don't end up in the top 5. They won't. This is a very good draft class, very deep draft class. And the Magic obviously don't have a lot of minutes for rookies right now. So they might be in a little bit more of a win now posture when it comes to the draft. You notice I did not say Wendell Carter. And Wendell Carter probably is the most tradable player on the team, or the player the Magic are probably most willing to trade at this point. Because he signed his contract in October, he is trade restricted for 6 months. Essentially, if you sign a player to a contract, and it's more than 120% of his previous salary, which I believe Carter's falls into, you're restricted from trading him for six months or January 15th, whichever is latest. Since Carter signed his contract in October, he's not trade eligible until April, which is after the trade deadline. He's not trade eligible until after the season ends. And so, depending on how valuable Carter might be on the market, I think he still has I still think he has a little bit of value on the market. You might have to attach a first to get anything for him. His salary is still very, very reasonable, at least for another year. Before it jumps to 18, which is still very reasonable for a starter. Carter's probably the player the Magic most want to trade because they might have an answer at center with Goga Bitadze. There's a little bit of a logjam there. That's someone you could extract value for because Carter can still contribute. He's still an excellent defender. I know his counting stats aren't good this year. I'm not sitting here pretending they're good. He is a very good defender. He's played very good defense. And so you sit here and you think, well, as the Magic approach this deadline and as the Magic begin to think about how to make their team better, they still don't have a ton to offer. And that's going to make creating a trade a little bit more difficult. But the Magic, as a contending team, should be buyers. They're not looking to sell. They're not looking to pawn anyone off. They're looking to get value for whatever they're moving. And so we get to one of the more important questions. What are the Magic's goals at the trade deadline? What are the Magic looking to acquire? So let's start there, or let's continue there. What the Magic want in a trade coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. We mentioned the college football playoff a little while ago to get you set for the college football playoff. They got Notre Dame 7.5-point favorites over Indiana in Friday's game. Saturday, Penn State 8.5-point favorites over SMU. Texas 11.5-point favorites over ACC champion Clemson. And then the nightcap, Ohio State 7.5-point favorites over Tennessee. You can even bet who's going to win the whole thing. I believe I don't actually see those actually out there. So yeah, you can bet who's going to win the whole thing. Oregon, your favorite, at plus 350. If you're looking forward to NBA action and looking forward to the NBA Cup final, the Oklahoma City Thunder sitting as 5-point favorites over the Milwaukee Bucks. If you're looking ahead to Thursday's big showdown between the Orlando Magic and the Oklahoma City Thunder, the Thunder are 5.5-point favorites coming straight from Vegas after their game Tuesday. So we'll have that to look forward to on Tuesday. You can find all these and more just visit FanDuel.com. To join today, you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. So we know kind of what the Magic are trying to do. We know what the challenges are going to be at the trade deadline. We know that the Magic don't, have some interesting role players to offer on some good salaries. Like, I mean, again, we could say what we want about Jeff Weltman. He has done a good job amassing salaries that should net the Magic something. He has tradable salaries. Those salary slots that he's filled put this team in a position where they can make some moves. They can do some like-for-like trades, attach a first, attach a second. The Magic have some draft picks to play with. When the Magic are ready to make a deal, they have the assets to do so, even if like Cole Anthony's not playing or Gary Harris is struggling. Those are easy contracts for teams to get out of. They can get back into the free agency ringer very, very quickly. Again, the biggest thing may be just like give them some future assets so that they're getting something a little bit more permanent, perhaps. They got salaries to match, which is something they didn't have at last year's deadline, at least salaries that they were willing to part with. There are salaries now that you can make a very good argument that the Magic would be willing to part with. They'd be fine trading a Gary Harris, I think. They'd be fine trading a Cole Anthony. But you don't make trades just to make trades. You're not doing change for the sake of change. And especially this front office just does not believe in that. They have made a trade at every trade deadline except for last year, by the way. So let's not pretend that they're not active. But this is a front office that has been very intentional about everything they do, which is, again, why I am skeptical the Magic are going to make a trade at this deadline. Because, A, they don't really know what they have. Like, let's just take it for what it is. What are the Magic trying to accomplish at the trade deadline? What are their goals? If the goal is to get home court advantage and to win a playoff series, then the Magic probably are looking at their team right now and saying, we have enough to accomplish that goal. Unless something makes us meaningfully better, there's no reason to disrupt chemistry, and there's no reason to throw this team for a loop. Granted, as well, the Magic have not seen themselves at full force yet. They have not seen this fully operational battle station. They only saw it for 5 games before Paolo Banchero got hurt. They're probably, Paolo will probably be back before the end of the year. He'll probably be back at the tail end of this homestand around Christmas, like he said. Franz Wagner's probably not back until around the trade deadline itself, until around early February. Probably, it's probably safe to say the All-Star break is going to be a safe bet for his return. So, with that being said, what do we make of the Magic's goals, or how do we assess what this Magic team needs? Now, there are obvious needs. The Magic are the worst three-point shooting team in the league. Get someone who can make an open shot. The Magic thought they were signing that in Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. For whatever reason, he's not making threes the way that the Magic hoped for. The Magic are getting all the quality looks they want. They're getting all the shots that they want. It's just not going in. So how much do you need that? I don't know. That is certainly part of the thing is the Magic need to find shooting. But I think all of us also recognize that one of the Magic's bigger needs is they need another playmaker and creator. Right now, Paolo and Franz are essentially, I said this a lot during the playoffs last year, banging their head against the wall. They don't have enough guys who can create for themselves. And look, you need to be able to play off of players. I don't think the Magic are looking for a ball-dominant player. They're not looking. There's a reason why they didn't chase after a Chris Paul. There's a reason why they didn't chase after certain players. They're not looking for someone that's going to dominate the ball. But they do need someone that can create their own shot and be a playmaker and creator. They want Jalen Suggs to be that, and maybe this next 2-3 weeks will help him develop that. Maybe the next month will help him continue to develop that. But he's not there yet. And so the Magic at times bog down because they don't have anyone that can create. They're certainly going to bog down a lot here while Paolo and Franz are out. That is a clear need for this roster. Having said that too, Orlando has their own requirements for what they're looking for. They want guys who defend. And I think a lot of people were critical of the Magic for going after Kentavious Caldwell-Pope with their free agency money instead of chasing a point guard. Because again, we all know the Magic need a point guard. We all know they need a playmaker. But the Magic ultimately decided to double down on their identity. The defense, say what you want about Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. There's a lot to say about him. Say what you want about him. He has made this team's defense better. And they were already pretty good. But he has fit this team's defense perfectly. And he still has a ton of value for the Magic because he's an elite defender next to Jalen Suggs. And I don't think you're quite giving that up or pushing that aside without a fight or without really considering what you're doing. So that's where we start. We start there with, okay, we know what the Magic want. We know what the Magic's requirements are. And finding that specific player is not easy. That's not going to be an easy task for this team. But the Magic are not out here to make trades just for the sake of making trades. They're not out here just to do something. You're not poking them with the stick and getting them to do something. They're going to wait for the right opportunity because they may only have one real shot at this thing. And so they're going to look for the exact right player. This is a tough needle to thread. I want to repeat this. Where the Magic are in their rebuild and the next move is a big one. It's going to determine whether the Magic jump into title contention or not. So checking for the right player, making sure they vibe with Paolo and Franz is really important. And I don't think the Magic are interested, frankly, in taking the ball out of Paolo and Franz's hands. They may want a point guard. They may want another playmaker or another creator, but they need someone that will play off of their star players to begin with. And the Magic are not desperate here. The Magic are exactly where they want to be. And again, that is why I'm a little bit skeptical that a trade is coming down the pike or that a trade is imminent or trade is likely in February. Because I think the Magic like their team, as Otis Smith used to say. I think the Magic really like their team. They like how they're growing. They want to continue giving them space to make mistakes and to grow and to learn. And while there is pressure to win, winning isn't the number one goal. Or winning, that's the wrong way to put it. Winning is an important goal, but it's not the only goal. The wins are coming. They want the wins to come because their players are getting better. And if they have to take a few losses so that they learn some lessons and they improve that way, they're fine doing it. Because again, they are still continuing to make the progress they want to see. The Magic are third in the East. And while New York has caught them a little bit, and these injuries are going to slow them down a little bit, the Magic are going to be in that race all year. They're not going anywhere. And so, what are the Magic trying to improve? What are the Magic really trying to get better at? Now, what they're really thinking about is how do we get from where we are to title contender? Well, frankly, the answer to that question is Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner are healthy and get better. That's what will get the Magic to title contender in the most immediate future. And so with that said, it doesn't feel like the Magic are quite in the market to make that big deal yet. In any case, though, who might the Magic chase? Who's going to be out on the market for the Magic to chase? We'll go through a couple names that I like coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends at Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends at Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had a few subscriptions that I didn't even realize I was still paying for, and Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users as it has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is that subscription tracker. I'm usually pretty good about tracking my own money, but there's even some things that I miss or I frankly just don't think about, or I look at my bill and I'm like, oh, I know what that is. And I don't know what that is. Plus, with their goals feature, I've been able to automatically set aside money for my future, No more stressing about budgeting every month. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. So who are the names that are going to be out there? Like I said, the trade deadline more than the offseason is about a buyers and sellers market. Essentially, what you do at the trade deadline, or what teams are doing at the trade deadline, is setting up their post-regular season. So for a lot of teams missing the playoffs, it's about clearing away old cap. It's about clearing away dead cap. It's about cleaning up your books, setting yourself up for the draft. It's about kind of tidying your house up a little bit and making those decisions early on some players and extracting some value for players as you try to figure yourself out next season. For playoff teams, it is usually about what's that last piece we need for the playoffs? What's that last piece we need to ensure our success in the postseason? And if that's your case, and the Magic are one of the few teams that still have cap room to spend, so that means they're a full trade participant, unlike, say, the Milwaukee Bucks or the Golden State Warriors, who are restricted by the aprons. The Magic do have a lot of flexibility here if they want to get involved. And again, if the Magic are thinking, well, what's that last piece that we need? Well, obviously, like another shooter, another point guard might be helpful, another creator might be helpful. Frankly, I would say that the Magic are not looking for a last piece. They're looking for a pretty major piece to kind of complete their roster and to supplement what they have. And knowing that the Magic, again, are so into continuity, and knowing that the Magic are about to be a tax team. Next year, they are slated to be a tax team, and that is before Paolo Banchero signs his max extension. They're going to be flirting with the apron in 2 years. So this is a period where the Magic do have to be careful financially. But right now, the Magic have a lot more freedom financially than they're going to have in 2-3 years. And so they do have to be careful. They do have to think about what they have and think about what they're looking for. And maybe this is the time to strike. Maybe this is the time to go after some things. Obviously, one of the big names is off the board. Dennis Schroeder traded to the Warriors. You can listen to our friends Locked On Warriors and Locked On Nets as they break down that deal. That was a favorite name for a lot of Magic fans because we've all watched him during the Olympics with Team Germany. We know that he has a relationship with a couple of players already. He's a guy that can fit in really well coming off the bench or filling in as a starter. He's a solid veteran who would make this team better. But that's also giving up a lot of assets for a player who is an expiring contract and someone you're not sure you're going to re-sign. The Magic, I think, are willing to take on a little bit of long-term money. Now, they don't want to take on too much long-term money because of those financial restrictions. The player that I have actually had my eye on the most, a guy that I think fits really well as a sixth man, but my criticism of this Magic roster is, and I've expressed this to a few people, and I'm curious if you think this is the right way to describe it. A lot of the Magic's roster is only one thing. So, Jalen Suggs and Franz Wagner have been trying to expand their games. And look, Franz Wagner did it. And that was really fun to watch him be an all-star and be the alpha. But everyone else on the roster is kind of one thing. Tavius Caldwell-Pope is a 3-and-D player. We'll debate the 3 later, but he's a 3-and-D player. Jalen Suggs is not a point guard. They're trying to put a square peg in a round hole a little bit with that, but he's not a point guard. Anthony Black hasn't quite figured out how to elevate and be consistent offensively yet. Everyone's very good at their roles when all the pieces are in place and everyone's right where they need to be. But when they have to be asked to do more, that's when we see them struggle a little bit, if that makes sense. So if I'm the Magic, the next player that I'm looking for has got to be someone who can be more, who can fill a role, but when you need him to start a game or need him to do a little bit more, or, just guys are dragging and he's the one going, he can take over. The guy that I have my eye on, if the Magic are going to be aggressive, and again, I am skeptical that they will be aggressive at this trade deadline, I have my eye on Colin Sexton. We know that he is a super competitor. We know that he can play some point guard. He can get downhill, but he's also a much improved three-point shooter. Sexton's averaging 16.8 points per game before tonight's game. 3.2 assists per game, so not nearly a huge passer this year, but he averaged nearly 5 assists per game at various points in his career. Most importantly, he's shooting 43.2% from three this year and 38.7% for his career. He is someone who can create his own shot. That was kind of the problem for him in Cleveland. He just didn't fit what they were doing because the shot was inconsistent and he made some bad decisions. But in Utah, he was unleashed. He kind of figured himself out a little bit more. He's been starting for them. I think he's a really high-level sixth man. Put him next to Anthony Black, and you have two big guards again. You lose no size on the perimeter. Looking at him defensively, he's on a bad Utah team defensively. The Jazz have a 116.9 defensive rating with Sexton on the floor. That's 2.1 points per 100 possessions better than the team's overall average. More importantly, the Jazz are a minus 17.2 net rating when Sexton's off the floor, including a 119.5 defensive rating. To me, that suggests that he does have a little bit of an impact defensively, and he is someone that makes him better, makes the team better. And so again, you limit his role. He's not your number one guy. He's not your star, but sometimes he needs to be. And sometimes he can go on a shooting binge. He has the versatility the Magic like. If the Magic were to chase after a big fish, I'm not thinking about Zach LaVine, although as far as stars go, if he's healthy and he buys it and he defends, Zach LaVine is a star that fits this team. If the Magic were ready to push all their chips into the middle, I don't think the Magic should do Zach LaVine because of his contract. And because I question his commitment defensively and his overall health. That's the kind of star you're looking for. I don't think the Magic are really looking for De'Aaron Fox. I know there's an offshore bookie that placed the Magic as the favorites to land De'Aaron Fox. I don't think De'Aaron Fox is the answer for this team. Just a little too ball dominant, not a good enough shooter. He'll defend, he's fast, all that stuff. But again, the Magic aren't ready to go all in. The Magic aren't ready to push some chips in the middle of the table. They're not going for a third star. They're looking for a supplemental player that can elevate the team a little bit. That's the next move. And so I'm thinking a guy like Colin Sexton. Honestly, reasonable contract, $18.4 million this year, $9.2 million next year. So you would have to, maybe do a Cole Anthony, Gary Harris, and the Denver first. Utah loves their draft picks right now. Danny Ainge wants to get a lot of draft picks. That's kind of the place that I'm thinking for the Magic right now. Now, there are other players out there. And you kind of go down the list of all the bad teams in the league. I've seen some people pitch Corey Kispert deals. He just signed a new contract. I wouldn't hate Kispert. A little bit one-dimensional, just a great shooter, though, which the Magic need. They need some volume shooting, which Kentavious Caldwell-Pope was not and never was when the Magic signed him. The other guy is Cameron Johnson. The Magic have been connected to him at various points, even though they're set at the 4 with Paolo, Franz, and Jonathan Isaac. So I question where he would play. But we know he can contribute to a championship-level team. He's been playing really well for Brooklyn. He's a guy who can get hot and elevate his game. And again, that's kind of what the Magic need. They need to be able to get some guys who can score a little bit more and be major players. And if Paolo and Franz are soaking up all this attention, will make teams pay for giving them that attention. Right now, the Magic have zero gravity. The Magic have been linked to Johnson before. I don't think that's necessarily disappearing. I doubt that the Sacramento is looking to trade like a Malik Monk, but Kevin Huerter's a bad defender and he's shooting really poorly this year. But you could probably get a Kevin Huerter for relatively cheap if that's the direction you want to go. He's a little pricey. Again, I'd rather go with Sexton. He's about the same price as Huerter will be next year. That's kind of the lay of the land. Those are my early targets. Essentially, Sexton, Cameron Johnson. I'll listen to Zach LaVine. I don't think it's crazy. I don't think it's smart. Zach LaVine is getting paid a ton of money. Zach LaVine's owed $95 million over the next 2 years, and that's after this season. That's a lot of money, and that puts the Magic in apron territory, and you don't want to get stuck there if you don't have to yet. Because, again, I don't think the Magic are all in quite yet. But there's worse things you could do. Basketball-wise, all things being perfect, there are worse things you can do. So I think, again, as we look to the trade, and look, I think the trade market's still developing. We know Chicago's probably gearing up to sell a little bit. Lonzo Ball might be on the market. We know Brooklyn is selling. We know that that Utah will probably be willing to deal. There are quality players out there if the Magic want to dip their toe in. But like I said, my gut feeling is the Magic aren't ready yet. The Magic, the guy that they probably most want to trade, and you probably have to get some truth serum out of them to tell you this, but with Goga Bitadze emerging the way that he has, the Magic don't need Wendell Carter anymore. Like, Mo Wagner is a perfect backup center. You could find a third center somewhere else. They don't need Wendell Carter as much anymore. And he's really struggled. Like, again, he's just not performed the way that the Magic need him to perform. They're probably looking to extract value for him in the offseason. And I think, again, you can't trade him now. So you have to wait for the offseason to make that move. It's tough. And the salary cap restrictions and the collective bargaining restrictions, the apron restrictions are making trades even harder. But I don't think the Magic are quite in the space to make those deals. I think Orlando is still trying to thread that very difficult needle. They are trying very hard to be a winning team that is still developing. And so I don't think they're looking to disrupt chemistry. I don't think they're looking to disrupt the group that they have. They are looking to get better, but I think they still believe that internal growth is their best ticket for this season. Now, when they struggle in the playoffs or how they lose in the playoffs, if it's the same as how they lost to Cleveland, then we'll probably see them do something. And again, they know they can't be this way forever. They're going to have to make trades. They're, on track to be a championship team, but they're not there yet. And clearly they have to ask questions. What do we need to be a championship team? Those answers feel very obvious. And so now it's just about finding the right guys to fill those roles. I don't know if that's at the trade deadline, but we'll see what happens in the very near future. We'll do plenty more trade deadline stuff. Don't worry. There'll be rumors. There'll be more stuff popping up. We got to see how this team plays and develops as well. I think that's a big piece of this puzzle that we don't have yet. Seeing what Paolo Banchero looks like when he gets back and up and running, that's when the Magic will start making some decisions and start figuring out, okay, this is what we need. We know Franz is coming back on this date or around this time. That's when we can really know who we are. The Magic have a lot to figure out before that. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. You can find me on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. For the latest, you can subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of them sell podcasts to your podcast-stable listening device. You can find us on YouTube as well. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As if all that's not enough, you can check out the Locked On Magic daily newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Magic newsletter. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic. This has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.